Hello, and welcome to the Tabletop Optimist. My name is Tim. On this episode of Level 1 to Now, I sat down with Revealing Too Much, who is a streamer of over 7 years. Over that time, he has amassed over 10,000 followers on Twitch and over 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. We discuss what it's like to be a streamer, his time in the ttrpg space, his new Daggerheart actual play, The Naturolls, and so much more. Please make sure to like and subscribe to not miss out on any future interviews that I have. Now let's jump into the interview with Revealing Too Much. Thank you for joining in on the interview. Thank you for joining Level 1 to Now. How are you doing today? How was the stream?
I'm doing well. Stream was good. It's it's hot, but we're keeping cool. So
Good.
yeah, doing well.
What did you play?
Today was Once Human, so it's kind of like an open world survival game.
Hmm.
I have a friend who back kind of when I was getting started streaming more, we used to be able to stream together all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But his work schedule's kind of changed since then, so it was just kind of like he had today off because it's the day before a holiday, and
Mm-hmm.
so we were just kind of chilling and having fun, just cracking jokes and hanging out together. So it was a nice time.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to be able to kind of like pair your stream with like working with somebody else on it. One thing I've always heard from like YouTubers and streamers, one of the best ways to kind of grow and to cater an audience to get people to watch is have like that kind of fun back and forth with a lot of people.
Yeah. Plus, it's just like, at least in my experience, I think making things online, since so much of what you do is um, this is weird to say while we're looking at each other, but most of what you do is you're engaging with people you can't really see,
Mm-hmm.
and I think in ways that can feel a little bit lonely. Like
Yeah.
it's obviously there are thousands of, I mean, I think the last time I heard there were like nearly 400,000 channels on Twitch that are monetized. So there's a lot of people that do it. So it feels weird to call it a lonely thing, but like I mean, on an average week, you're pretty much just talking to your computer by yourself, unless you're unless you're arranging times to stream with people. So it's just nice to have those people that you can kind of like joke around with, and
Mm-hmm. Feed off of and kind of enjoy their company.
yeah, yeah, absolutely make the internet feel a little bit more of a small world. I think is helpful. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, I always enjoy playing video games myself, of course, like every other nerd. But it's always a little bit more fun when you get to have people to play with and enjoy their company.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
All right, and you said you've been kind of doing it kind of at this for a while. I know that ever since I've started following you and we kind of like been following each other, I've always seen like the reminder, like, hey, revealing just started their stream. So it's like you kind of keep with it, which is what I think is one of the most important facets of streaming is just keeping with it, keeping a schedule, doing the best you can to adhere to that schedule. Um, for people who are just starting out, what kind of advice do you have for those people?
Um, that's a good question. I mean, what you said is honestly my. Anytime anybody asks me that question, that's my number one piece of advice: is be consistent. Um, if you're, it depends on what you want out of it, obviously.
Hmm.
Um, I think people want different things out of streaming, and I think that the first thing you got to figure out is what you want. So if you want it to be something that's full time, or something that maybe it's supplementing another job or something like that. You know what I mean? Like if you want it
Hmm.
to be something like that, then I think you do have to treat it like work.
Yeah.
It is very much not fire up and play video games. You have to think about like what it takes to engage with an audience. You have to think about, like I tend to think about it a lot like a typical TV show where like, at least growing up when I did, this doesn't really make any sense now because we have Netflix and all that. But anyways, um, growing up when we did was like you had to be there at 8 p.m. on Thursday if you wanted to see your favorite show. And I, I think that makes sense for streamers as well. Like if you want people to know when you're going to be streaming, be there at the same time every week. And
Hmm.
it doesn't matter if you stream once a week, it doesn't matter if you stream 7 times a week, but I think being consistent is really important. Um, being really engaged with your audience, I think, is one of the better things you could offer people. Going back to what I said previously about how the internet can feel kind of lonely sometimes. One of the reasons that I personally believe that people spend a lot of time in streams and stuff like that is because they are looking for people who share. They're looking for people who share ideas, thoughts, basically feel the same way that they do in a
Hmm.
lot of ways. And I think that's one of the biggest things that somebody who streams can offer people is not like I'm not saying everybody has to agree about everything, but you can offer someone a community, and as the streamer, you're the head of that community, and being engaged with people is an important thing that you can do. And you find that when you engage chat, they'll also start to engage others or like each other.
Hmm.
And I think that's kind of what really builds a community is when you see those moments where chat isn't just there for the one-on-one interaction between that particular person and the streamer, but everybody's engaging with each other, everybody's, checking to see how each other's weekends went, that sort of thing. I think those are really special moments. So that doesn't really answer your question very well, though. So let me try. No, be consistent. Be prepared to stream to no one for a while. It's everybody's done it. Even Shroud has stories about how he streamed to one person for a full year.
Hmm.
And decide what it is that you have to offer and offer that to people. So if what you're really good at is cracking jokes, you know, you never know what moment is someone's first moment in the stream.
Yeah,
Think
and
about
you
what you have. Yeah,
yeah, and
think
you
about
want to
what you
like
have to
kind of
offer.
yeah, and if they kind of they come in on the stream and they see that you're kind of you're entertaining, you're light, you get to be able to have fun at the game, they'll want to come back if it's something that kind of like speaks to them. It's kind of like the way that I look at streaming is like a job.
Yeah.
When you have a job, you are typically given set hours. You show up, you accomplish those hours, and then you go home. But with streaming, you set your own hours. But if you're going to start setting hours, you got to make sure you can hit those hours. It's like
Right.
even like some of the bigger Twitch streamers that I've heard of are like they exclusively play at night, but it's like you don't really see them playing at any other point of the day because they know when their audience has available time. It's like
Yeah.
if you started off during the day and you've picked up a following, it's good to stick to that schedule because those people may work at night, or the people
Mm-hmm.
who stream at night, they may work during the day, so they don't have time to watch you. And creating a community is really important. I've seen Twitch chats everywhere that even though a lot of them aren't directly communicating with the streamer itself, they're communicating with each other.
Yeah.
And they all have that one, it's like going to a convention. You have that one singular interest that everybody else has. You like watching this person play. You all have that kind of start point
Yeah.
of like when you, whether you go to like an anime convention, sci-fi, comic book convention, you all have that starting point that you guys can talk about and therefore fosters more community.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's I not to get too philosophical, like 3 minutes into this or whatever, but I think we're all looking for connections,
Hmm.
and I think that helping people connect with one another and just connecting with other people, I think is some of the more important work that we can do. Obviously, I'm not saying that there are. I don't know. I think that it's easy to look at streaming sometimes as like, oh, that's just video games,
Hmm.
but people need communities. People in isolation, I think, are that's not really how people are meant to be
Yeah. Weird.
in isolation. So anytime I have those moments of like, it's kind of odd that I've been playing video games professionally on the internet for almost 5 years now, and I'm not even that great at video games. But it's kind of an odd thing. And then I think about there are people that I see who are friends that like kind of know each other through me, and like very possible they would have met each other anyway, but
Hmm.
I don't know. That's the kind of thing that I find value in when I think about what I do for a living, I guess.
Well, and that's it is possible that they could have met without you, but there's also a large possibility that they couldn't have. I mean,
Yeah.
when I've met some of my closest friends through, like what I was saying earlier, going to conventions, and even though we live in the same city, it is 100% possible not to run into this person at all if you unless you live in a very small city. Like I live in
Yeah.
a city of about 500,000 people, which would be considered a large city, but compared to others, it's very small. Even with a
Yeah.
city of like 5,000 or more, you could potentially live in that city with someone your entire life and never run into them. So,
Yeah. Oh, I actually totally did just think of something else
oh yeah,
that
go ahead.
that I think is super important. First of all, um, long-term viability for streaming involves a lot of luck. So just
Hmm.
if someone's thinking about getting started, very much recommend uh, the having the mindset of I'm going to work until the luck happens. I think that you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
don't sit around and wait for luck to happen. Do the work, but also be aware that luck is involved in terms of opportunities and stuff like that. But the real thing that kind of dawned on me is the idea that other people who do this, so other people who stream or make YouTube videos or I don't know, whatever you're doing, you're not competing against those people.
Hmm.
Um, so you're not like obviously you are if you're streaming at the same time as someone, then people have to decide where to focus their or where to focus their attention, but that doesn't mean that you two are in competition
Hmm.
because if you are you and they are them, there's essentially nothing that you can do that is going to make someone decide to choose you over someone else if you're not their type of person. So
Definitely.
I think approaching streaming or YouTubing, podcasting, whatever, from a like a cooperative standpoint is really important, and I think that those kinds of mindsets definitely make for the opportunities like being able to stream with friends and stuff like that. So I don't know.
Hmm.
I would say
No,
that.
that's yeah, it's always like a good reminder that that it's not a competition, that it is a kind of more of a collaborative, because if there's more people streaming on Twitch, more people flock to Twitch than if it's like, because you said earlier there's about roughly 400,000 affiliated Twitch streamers. If
Yeah.
there wasn't that many people, then you wouldn't get X amount of people to go to that site. It's like, in order to
Right.
have people flock to your site, you got to have enough things on there to garner their attention. So if it was such a low amount of people who are streaming, you're not going to get a lot of people visiting the site every day.
Right. Yeah. And the more people visit Twitch, the more opportunities there are for Twitch
Mm-hmm.
streamers, frankly, just like you were saying. So
Yeah.
yeah, I see a lot of people who like get pretty combative about the idea of like, oh, this person's trying to steal my viewers or whatever. And like I just that mindset is it's gonna drive you into some crazy places if you allow those thoughts to kind of fester. So
Mm-hmm.
just if you're getting started, you know, the other people streaming, those are your coworkers. They're working at the same time as you. They're serving the same audience. It's probably the right way to word that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I don't know. I think having that mindset is pretty important.
What motivated you to start streaming overall?
So when I first started streaming, it was man 7 years ago. I was pretty exclusively playing a game called Destiny with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I don't know why I worded it like that. People know what Destiny is for the most part, but regardless. No, I was mostly playing Destiny with my friends, and we would do an activity that was 3 man, all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and there were more than 3 of us. So I was just like, you know what, I have the bandwidth. I can put it up on Twitch, and that way, if somebody who's not playing with us still wants to kind of engage, they can still talk with us, that sort of thing, and see what's going on. And at the same time, I was working first shift, and my wife was working third shift.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you are working opposite shifts, but you don't see a lot of each other. I just had a lot of free time.
Yeah.
So it was doing a lot of that, and it just happened that we talk about how streaming is a lot of just luck. I happened to meet the right people at the right time, and I ended up being able to get affiliate on Twitch pretty like in a pretty short amount of time. I don't even remember what it was because it was 7 years ago at this point. And from there, it kind of became one of those things of challenging myself to see like, all right, well, we have this many viewers. What's next? Can we get more viewers doing something else? And then I'm very much a very much stubborn, I
Hmm.
guess. It feel weird describing myself as stubborn, but very much stubborn in that way, in that it's like I would like to see this work out, and I am willing to put in the time to see that it does. And so I did it side by side with a full-time job for about 2.5 years, and then the pandemic happened, and I was working at a university and worked from home for like the February through September period, I think.
Hmm.
And they were like, "You need to come back into the office." And I said, "Well, I edit your website. Like that's my job, is editing a website, and I feel like the internet's anywhere. So that kind of feels like you're willing to compromise my safety, because just as like full disclosure, I'm a little bit germophobic. So
Hmm.
the idea of going back into the office was kind of daunting, and I was pretty stressed out about it, and talked with the wife, and she was like, "Well, streaming's going pretty well. Why don't we see where that goes, and we can make some decisions?" And then suddenly that's been almost 5 years. So that's my journey. It's been pretty odd. It's been
Yeah.
pretty odd.
Yeah. No, the kind of with like that, there were a lot of jobs that did kind of move out of the office, and the job I work now, I work 3 days a week in the office, 2 days at home. But yeah, there are a lot of times where I'm just like, do I really need to go into the office? But it's one of those things where it's like, if you can live off of it, that's awesome. It's one of those things where it's like you are able to do something every day that you enjoy. And even though it is work, and it can be really rough work, especially on days that
Mhm.
you're just not really feeling like being in front of the camera, but it's just one of those things where it's cool to be able to do that.
Yeah. And full disclosure, absolutely no way I'd be able to do it without my wife.
Hmm.
She works a regular job, traditional job, whatever. Like she is very good at what she does, and she frankly makes enough money that on the months where things don't go well, which happen when you have no set paycheck, that we're not, you know, too freaked out. So
Yeah.
just wanted to give a shout out to my wife because there's absolutely no way I'd be doing this if it wasn't for her. So
Yeah, no, my wife is a director of sales, and right now I work a job where I am an archiver uh, for an insurance company,
okay.
and it's definitely one of those things where it's like it's helpful that she's really good at her job. She's really good at like kind of like selling stuff and everything. So
Yeah.
not
At
I don't
every
think I don't think either of us have an issue with like our wives making more than us.
right, yeah, it's I don't know that she has ever had a job. Even when I was working full time, her first job out of college, she was making more than me, which
Hmm.
was like, people, the stereotype on, I don't know, sitcoms.
Yeah.
I don't even really know where the stereotype comes from, but the stereotype is that, the man always has problems with that, and I'm just like, I don't know what to tell you. She's incredibly talented. They should pay her for that.
Hmm. No, and
So
it's just one of those things where if you have that relationship and you have that love for each other, it's like when you love someone and you respect them and you have that friendship, it's easy to have that relationship where even like both like their money and your money, it's
Hmm.
all you're just both doing what you can to
Right.
make a better life for each other.
Yeah. Absolutely. Just being each other's biggest fans, I think,
Hmm.
is a really underrated thing.
But yeah. So you said you've been streaming for about 7 years now. You said you started off with Destiny. Aside from kind of like just game changing, of course, because game servers are supported, like depending on whether game like servers stay supported or if the game continues with development or if they just put out like the bare minimum.
Yeah.
I was kind of curious, how has your stream changed from when you started to now?
Yeah. I mean, I think I've changed a lot. I think I've gotten a lot more knowledgeable, I guess,
Hmm.
at what I do. A lot. I don't know if strategic is the right word, but I definitely do try to plan what I do based on what I think. Like when I first started off, back when it didn't matter for income in any way, I'd just play what I want. If people showed up, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
But when it becomes a full-time thing, like I definitely think I've started spending a lot more time thinking about like what's the viability of streaming this game in particular? Like is it a story game where the day the story game comes out, people don't want to watch because they don't want spoilers, and then a week later nobody wants to watch it because they've already finished it and moved on?
Hmm.
Or is it an ongoing game where people can see you working towards something? So there's a lot of factors. So I think my mindset has changed a lot because it's had to, because it has been my full-time job for years.
Um, when you, I know you said you started out playing um, Destiny. I know you've played for 7 years, so you have a lot of games in your past that you've streamed. What is a game that you think, and it could be multiples, uh, that you found yourself enjoying streaming the most? That you're just like, if I could go, I would really like to either experience streaming that game again, or I wish I could have, I wish I could just play that game again on stream.
Yeah. Um I mean, the big thing for me is the time that I went full-time streaming was roughly like within a period of like a week or so, the same time that Marvel's Avengers came out.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
if you don't know anything about that game, it is essentially, it's got a story, but the essential flow is it's kind of a
Hmm.
looter shooter like Destiny, but in Marvel Universe. So you get to play as a Marvel superhero, you get to get gear, go do harder missions, that sort of thing. And that was kind of the game that really, really helped my channel. Like I have never had the, I guess, the viewership and the audience and that sort of thing as I had with that game.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I know a lot of people I still stream with, like the person I streamed with today, my buddy Fate Walker. We met because we were both streaming that game at the same time, and we're still friends 5 years later. I think in terms of the 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 rose-colored glasses of looking back to the past, the nostalgia thing, it's hard to beat that game.
But kind of, this is one of the questions that you're going to see kind of a lot in like the different interviews that you watch. It's going to be kind of like spread throughout because this is what I think is one of the most important questions: is what got you into TTRPGs and how long have you been playing them?
Oh, jeez, not long. Um, that's a great question. Trying to figure that out. I don't know if I played. I'm trying to think if I played a a TTRPG prior to. I might not have played anything before the release of Baldur's Gate 3.
Hmm.
I kind of. I don't know how they missed me or I missed them, depending on how you want to depending on how you want to think about it. I don't know how I would have missed them, because looking at it now, it's very much like, oh yeah, this is something that is for me. And so my path unless I'm misremembering. So if you get a frantic message from me at 2 in the morning, like, hey, I need to amend my answer. I think my answer is I was looking for a new game to stream. Everybody was talking endlessly about Baldur's Gate 3 as it was about to come out. I didn't have any kind of connections or anything, so I just kind of I was like, I'll take a chance on this one and bought the game for myself and didn't know anything about D&D, but started playing and then kind of realized that there was a lot of cool rules and cool things that you could do. But also, I think one of the limitations of a video game is, especially, I'm not going to knock Baldur's Gate 3 here because that's the good way to never show your face on the internet again. But especially in Baldur's Gate 3, which is obviously based on D&D, and I think you can do so many things in Baldur's Gate 3, but it never felt like I was a part of I never felt like the story was mine.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, there's a story that's being told to you, and you have different choices, and the story can go a different way. But it never really felt like the story was actually mine. And I think from there, that's how I started looking into, okay, I could create my first D&D character, and then okay, who do we have that will, that knows more about this, who will be willing to run a game for me, or who can I play with? And then we started playing some D&D and had a lot of fun with that. Obviously, there was some growing pains because
Mm-hmm.
um, everybody has different play styles, and I think getting used to shared storytelling in that way is probably a little bit of like a growing experience. And then from there, it was just kind of like, okay, well, D&D is cool. So then I started seeing some Critical Role, and from there it was like, wow, like the possibilities that you have. Going back to our Fallout conversation a little bit, like it feels like there's a pretty direct line from me playing Fallout 3
Mm-hmm.
to me starting to play tabletop games. Like Fallout 3 was like kind of my first moment of like you can have choices that influence the game around you. And that was the first step into what would eventually be tabletop games where it's like you can tell entire stories that you and your friends make up.
Yeah, no,
And yeah, so sorry.
it kind of go. Oh no, you're good. That kind of just goes with like the role playing aspect of it. I believe is the amount of choice and options that you have in a video game is very impressive. And it's like there are a lot of like different choices that you can make with like Baldur's Gate 3, Fallout 3. But for me, it was always I felt like they were limited because they were limited. It's no matter what game you make, there is a literal limit that you can put into a game.
There was a moment when I was playing Baldur's Gate 3 where there was something that I just didn't really understand how the game wanted me to do it, so I was trying to come up with my own way.
Mm-hmm.
And it essentially involved getting kind of through this passageway that was up. And in Baldur's Gate 3, you can move basically anything. So I was trying to like stack barrels on top of each other and then have my character climb on top of it. And I think one of those moments where I was like, I need. See, I'm trying, and like I have nothing against Baldur's Gate 3, but like it was a moment where I was like, I need to like this makes perfect sense that I could do this. I could stack two barrels on top of each other, stand on top of it, and jump through the hole. But because it's a video game, and because they didn't program that to be a possibility, I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think moments like that are what led me to tabletop RPGs because um, if
It's
if I think of something, I can tell my GM this is what I would like to do, and I might not succeed, but I can at least try to do it.
yeah, and
And
that's sorry. Go ahead.
no, 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 no. And I was
Oh
just
no.
gonna say, and that feels like being engaged in the story in a way that you can't always get from video games.
Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things where it's like you realize you realize how unlimited TTRPGs are when everything is decided by the skills that you have in a roll of the dice, where it's just about the creativity of how your GM or DM could feasibly make something work. And I just think
Yeah,
that's what's really cool about it is our minds aren't limited by the amount of code that it would take to program a video game, that we can think of anything.
right,
And as long as they are realistic and things that could happen, you could do it,
right.
which I think is really cool about TTRPGs. Such a simple thing, but it means so much.
Yeah, it's looking back on kind of my history and who I am as a person. It's surprising to me that I didn't find them sooner because um not to put too much of my business online, but I was in an improv group in college,
Mm-hmm.
and sorry, don't judge me for that, internet, if you're hearing the no when you're hearing this. But no, I was in an improv group, and I've always been a writer. Like I've been
Mm-hmm.
writing in one way or another essentially since high school. So the fact that I like it never I legitimately think it took someone from Critical Role saying in a video like this is like describing it as collaborative storytelling
Mm-hmm.
for it to click in my head of like that is the combination of these two things that I've practiced before. Like, I'm not saying I'm a great writer, and I'm not saying I was great at being in an improv group, but it's two things that I chose to do, and there is a hobby that involves those specific things being combined. And yeah,
Yeah, no. And that's one of the things I really do like about Daggerheart is they do focus heavily on the collaborative storytelling. And that's one thing I feel like you could do in D&D, but the way that they do the collaborative storytelling in Daggerheart seems like a little bit of like a step above, where it is more like people were saying, it is more like theater troupe D&D.
yeah, it is playing with the group that I'm playing with for the podcast that we're making. It is some of our favorite moments that we're still talking about, 8 months later or whatever, are when we had a conversation as a group of like, how should this look?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than the GM says, this is what this moment is. And there's something incredibly magical about those moments. And I don't always get those feeling like you're kind of saying. I don't always get those feelings from like a D&D because, D&D very specifically, each player's action in combat is 6 seconds, and that means that if you want to slash your sword and also say, "Hey guys, watch out for the
Hmm.
that guy over there," you don't have time to do that for some reason. I feel like if I was an adventurer, I could probably do those at the same time, but that's neither here nor there. No offense to D&D. Uh, um, but yeah, it's really interesting to approach a game not from the idea that this is something that I have to win,
Mm-hmm.
but from the idea of this is something that we're going to make together, and whatever it ends up being, I think that's kind of amazing.
No, this one might be hard, so if you want to name a couple, feel free. But what is a moment from a campaign that will always stick with you? And what made that moment so special?
Okay. Can I put a spoiler warning on this?
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
this is a moment that happened at the end of episode 6, which as of the time you and I are talking right now is the most recent episode we just released.
Mm-hmm.
And this we recorded this because of schedules. We recorded this last November, so it's been quite literally close to a year at this point. But we still talk about it where all of the players were in a dungeon, and our sorcerer for the first time used their disguise self spell.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've come across this, and I actually don't know if this has changed since the playtest. I should probably look at that. But in the playtest, at least in Daggerheart, the disguise self spell lasted, rather than lasting an amount of time, it lasted a number of actions equal to the sorcerer's level.
Hmm.
So the plan was to. Oh man, my table is so good at coming up with the most ridiculous plans. I love them so much. Their plans are just so ridiculous. So the plan was that the Clank Bard was trying to persuade a prison guard that they were just kind of checking in and getting some food for another prison guard, and that essentially involved the head guard saying, "Hey, can you go get this person?" And the sorcerer didn't know what this person looked like, so they just did disguise self with their best guess. So there was all of that, and then on top of that, they tried to tell the other guards like, hey, it's okay, you don't have to worry about it, which was an action. And then they also tried to try to do some other action of deceiving or that sort of thing. And so I'm looking at the rules as this happens, and I'm like, okay, so first of all, because of your role, you successfully convince the guards that you are this guard you're pretending to be. But there's something that we need to talk about. And the thing we need to talk about is in Daggerheart, your spell ends once you've taken a number of actions equal to your level. That was your second action. You are currently face to face with guards, and your disguise is going to drop. So we had a whole discussion with the group, and this is in the episode, where I'm like, I don't know what to do here, because on the one hand, you are like you've been a sorcerer for a while, you know how your spells work. So theoretically, you'd be able to duck around a corner like as it dropped. You'd know that that was happening, but like I don't know if that's incredibly narratively interesting. The other option is you're in the heat of the moment and you've forgotten that that happens, and it happens. And so I asked the players, like, what do you guys think should happen? And you can hear it in the episode where the sorcerer, who's played by Eris, Boga Froisia is the character's name in the show. Eris says, "Oh, I just thought of a great idea," and what Eris came up with in that moment was, uh, they do that action, the disguise drops, and then Eris's character goes, "They turned me into a frog." And so never in my mind would I have, like, in that moment thought of you play off turning into back into your normal self as part of the it blew my mind, and we all laughed and we're like, this is the best thing we've ever done. That's the end of that episode. Well, like that whole thing, but it's just I think that moment in particular was the moment where I was like, this is really this isn't just us playing a game. And I think that was honestly one of the most special moments. There's just I could probably think of more, but like that moment in particular was just very like, huh, this is there's so much you can do when you are playing these games with other people.
I don't know how much of a chance you've had to be as a player, but what is a class in any TTRPG? It could be D&D, Daggerheart, or anything like that that you feel like you enjoy the most, either as like the role play or kind of like the mechanics that fit your style of gameplay. And like I said, it could be any. If you want to list a couple classes that you enjoy playing as the most, and it could be any in any TTRPG.
Yeah, absolutely. My I've basically only had one D&D character. We ended up I made a D&D character for a campaign that kind of only lasted a couple sessions just because of scheduling, and so someone else asked if I wanted to join, and I took that character with me, that sort of thing. That is his name is Shaw. He is a aberrant mind sorcerer, I
Mm-hmm.
believe. And honestly, when I'm when I'm looking at picking classes for TTRPGs, I'm typically picking a magic class, because it feels to me like if I were to commit enough to it, which I absolutely am not ever going to, like I could probably learn how to punch things.
Mm-hmm.
But if I committed my entire life to it, I could probably not learn how to summon a fireball and drop it on my enemies. You know what I mean? So it's that's the fantasy of the role playing, is the doing something that there's no way I'd ever be able to do. So I tend to pick magic classes a lot, I think. Um, yeah, so actually when we were creating stuff for the Naturals, one of the things that we set up from the very beginning was all of us wanted to play, but also a few of us wanted to try GMing.
Hmm.
And so we actually set up our campaign from day one to be what we describe as campfire style, where we are approaching our story as if we're all telling stories around a campfire at the end of our journey. And that way, if we ever want to have someone else step in and run a few sessions, then it's just like, oh, someone else is telling a story at the campfire. So I actually do have a character for the Naturals. His name is Sal. He's a rogue, and I know that sounds at odds with what I just said about I usually pick magic classes.
Hmm.
But that's because we already had a bard and we had a sorcerer, and those were the two I was looking at. Warlock didn't exist yet, but man, Warlock is tempting. Whew.
Yeah, I still need to
Uh,
spend more time looking at the Void. I've
yeah,
looked at some of the stuff, but I'm just like, they've already released like what, 4 classes on there, and I think 8 subclasses. That's awesome.
there's so much going on. Plus, like, how many more ancestries and communities? Just,
Mhm.
anyways.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I'm also approaching. I'm approaching my rogue. Like, he's kind of a magic rogue, so he has returning blade. He has Rain of Blades, so a lot of the stuff he does is magical in nature.
Hmm.
And by the way, like in terms of classes, like Shadow Stepper for
Oh
Rogue
yeah.
in Daggerheart is just it's just one of the best abilities.
In existence.
Yeah, it's
Like,
just it's
I
just it's just so good. Being able to step into a shadow and appear anywhere else that there's a shadow, including in the shadow of someone else, it's just it's
I
fantastic.
think that kind of serves all of our Nightcrawler fantasies. When like, I don't know how old you are, but I saw X-Men 2 in theaters,
Mhm.
and so Nightcrawler was always my favorite because I thought it was really cool for him to teleport, but he has to see
Yeah.
where he's teleporting, and then his intro
Mhm.
in X-Men 2 is so great. And then turns
Is
out the
that in the
guy,
White House?
yeah, when
Yeah.
you first meet him is when he was at the White House. Then
Yep.
turns out the guy who plays Nightcrawler is the host of a reality show that me and my wife really enjoy.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
His name is Alan Cummings. I'm trying Traders. I don't know if you've heard
Okay.
of it, but
Mm-mm.
it's an interesting show. But anyway, so yeah, it's like the Shadow Step is like one of my favorite abilities. But yeah, you were talking about the Naturals earlier. You said you're on your 6th episode. But what I'm curious about is where did the inspiration come from, and why did you choose Daggerheart as the system for your actual play compared to other tabletop RPGs?
Good question. So inspiration came from kind of the same place I think where a lot of that comes from is just I have a group of people that I like spending time with, and like we've been talking about all day, tabletop games are a great way to share an experience with somebody else that you all create. So I picked a group of people that I was like, I think I'd like to spend time with these people on a regular basis, and I think it'd be interesting to see what we come up with together. So
Mhm.
that's kind of where that came from. In terms of the story that we're telling is kind of based on that session 0 we did where we picked a map and like drew segments on it. So the map we picked is from the Daggerheart playtest, and on the map it has what looks like from the drawing an island that's lifted into the sky
Mhm.
on the map. And when we saw that, we kind of joked that it was a sky island, aka Skyland, which would I go with that name again long term because kind of a corny pun? Yeah, I probably still would.
Mhm.
But admittedly I know that it's a corny pun. I don't care. Um, um, so we came up with that, and then we decided to call the entire region the Shatterlands. And so the inspiration for the story, as I started kind of putting it together, was the idea that this was once a divided kingdom, that this center area that is now Skyland was the like most highly contested piece of land, and it was just an awful place in terms of like war and things like that. And so the leaders of each side decided to, through the power of magic, lift that section up into the sky as like a communal city that united the two kingdoms. And so that the idea for that part of the story came from just looking at the map and talking to the players. And then I realized the most interesting thing that you could do with these two kingdoms that were at peace was to figure out why tensions are starting to brew again.
Hmm.
So that's kind of where all the inspiration for our campaign came from. The reason that we picked Daggerheart is, I mean, it's not a one of the reasons is I'm just a big fan of Critical Role. I feel like I owe them a debt of gratitude in terms of just inspiring me to get into this.
Hmm.
And another thing is that it feels really daunting to try to get into a D&D actual play. Like, people have 50 years of playing D&D and lots of feelings about it. I thought that if we started with Daggerheart, we would be able to be there as it got started, and there would be less idea that we weren't playing something the right way because there's not 50 years of rules and baggage.
No, and I agree.
So,
No, that's a good point because one thing I also enjoy about Daggerheart is how new it is. It's like what you said. Jumping into D&D is it's a great game. I'm not going to
yeah.
take away from it, but there is a lot of history to that game that could be very intimidating to new players.
Yeah,
Where it's like if you post anything and it's not the exact rules as written, a
right.
lot of people have opinions on that. So it's the one thing I do like about Daggerheart is it is a more of a modern TTRPG game that does have kind of those sensibilities baked into it. Where I feel like with D&D, if you don't play it a certain way, a lot of people have opinions on it. And with Daggerheart, it's so new and everyone is still learning how it works and how to
Hmm.
improve at the game that you're kind of all just kind of figuring it out together. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah, I agree 100%.
but yeah, so this one is going to be typically one thing I always like to do, and we've talked about this before, is the point of my channel is to create positive space that a positive space in the TTRPG community that I feel like there is already a lot of positivity, but there is a lot of negativity as well. And I feel like
Hmm.
the positive voices out there need to kind of outweigh the negative voices.
Hmm.
Um, so, did want to. This will be the final question.
Okay.
But there are, like I've said, there is a lot of like amazing and kind people in this community. But there
Hmm.
are a lot of people who are negative, and the reason why we may hear them more is because they're more vocal. Where people
Hmm.
who are generally positive about TTRPGs are probably busy playing TTRPGs
That's
and
exactly right.
not posting
That's
50
exactly
comments
right.
on Twitter about it.
Uh huh.
Um,
100%.
what recommendations do you have to add more positive to the community to not only attract more people to play the game, but play these games, but to also make the community better as a whole? Um, with your community that you've established through Twitch, I was thinking that you have a little bit of an insight into fostering an exact community around kind of like positivity and enjoying the company of others.
Yeah, it's a great question, which is true and also a thing that I'm going to say out loud so I can stall for a second while I think through my answer. um, I think remembering why we are doing the things that we're doing is important. I think that even when a tabletop game might happen to be your job, or if you're like me and you have a podcast that you're trying to promote and things like that, I think that the point of tabletop games always always might be a strong word. It's tough to speak in absolutes, but
Mm-hmm.
I think remembering that the point is to have fun and the point is to build something is a going to go a long way from to fostering that positive community, because if you are working on building things, you don't have time to destroy things. In a lot of
I
ways.
like that.
And man, that is a that's a really sorry, that's a good question. I don't know. I think that there's something beautiful about sharing what you love with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that online we all have a tendency to kind of hedge what we're saying based on what we perceive the reaction to be of people who might respond negatively to it. And it is something that I'm very much trying to squash in myself, because just to provide a little perspective, like, it's the reason that we have recorded 13 episodes of the Naturolls, and so far you're only hearing episode 6, is because I was worried for a really long time that I wasn't a good enough GM. Like, we recorded these episodes and then I was like, I can't release these. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I can think back to moments from episode 2 that I wish no one would hear because I don't think it was good GMing, but it was my second game that I had ever, like, I'm not saying it was my second game that I GM'd for the show. It was the second session I ever GM'd.
Mm-hmm.
And it's daunting to have that out in the world, because I think that there is a lot of tendency for the internet to jump on the flaws of something. And so, me, when I'm making things, I have a tendency to say, like, hey, I know this isn't perfect, but I wanted to share it with you. And I don't like doing that, because it it doesn't matter that it's not perfect. What matters is that it is real and it is something that we made, and we are taking this and giving this to others. And that goes back to the beginning of the conversation that we had, where that's how you build community. Nobody's perfect. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. Nothing that we make will ever be flawless. And I think we need to share the things that we love without the qualification of, hey, you might hate this, but here you go anyway. We need to share this thing and say, this is something that I love. You can take it or you can leave it,
Mm-hmm.
but this is something that's meaningful to me. Could be because those moments are where you find those connections between two strangers. Like, I don't know, like, I think about kind of discovering the dodos through Blue Sky and that sort of thing. And that's just like, that's such a a random connection of just, like, I mean, I haven't known them for very long, but that's a connection of me and other people who we connected over just being interested in the same thing. And
Mm-hmm.
we didn't have to worry that, like, oh, I was going to say something bad about something you did. Like, we were just we were just geeking out about things that we love together. And those are really good moments. So I think doing what you're doing, frankly, uh, taking something you're passionate about, tabletop gaming, and being a positive force in tabletop gaming and putting that out there on the internet is the path to creating more positivity. I think you're doing that, and I'm hoping, you know what? No, see, I started to do it again. I started to qualify. I think that I am doing my best to also put more positivity out there by just saying you don't have to be the best GM or the best player in the world to share something with someone else. The beauty comes in the moments where nothing's perfect,
Mm-hmm.
and you still find that connection with other people anyway. So,
No, and I appreciate the kind words about about putting out positivity, and I agree that you do as well. And it's just one of those things where it's like it is so easy to do. I mean, there is so much of this world that is very hard to do, but it is so easy to just not shit on something, in my opinion.
yeah, yeah.
Where, it's like if somebody puts out something and it's not the best, it doesn't need to be. That person is proud of what they made, and you should love what that person made,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of insecurity with a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people, and just putting
Yeah.
something out there is nerve-wracking enough. And it's like,
Yeah.
uh but yeah, so that was the final question, but I wanted to ask, where can we find your stuff? What are you doing right now? Anything that you're working on in the future?
Yeah. So I am revealing too, all spelled out the way you'd
Can you say that
expect.
again? You cut out a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm revealing too much on Blue Sky and Twitch and YouTube and TikTok. I haven't really used TikTok in recent days, but I'm revealing too much on all those platforms, and that's all mostly video game stuff. I guess on Blue Sky, on my revealing too much account, I do talk about tabletop stuff a lot as well. So, and then the other thing, I guess the big thing that I'm working on right now is I'm looking to get my tabletop podcast off the ground. It is a Daggerheart actual play called The Naturolls, and if you're going to look for it, you want to spell the Naturals with the word rolls, like roll the dice at the end. So thenaturals.com, just naturals on Blue Sky. So come find us. We're, like I said earlier, we're 6 episodes released as of time recording this. We actually have 13 episodes recorded, so that way we have some runway to make sure that we're not breaking our schedule as best as we can. And we have a lot of fun stuff coming. I have something coming up that my players don't even know about. No, nobody know. Like there are 4 people in the world who knows this exists, and it's. I think it's going to be a really, really cool moment. That's some episodes down the road. So yeah, that's what I would look for. I mean, honestly, if people are looking to support the just listening to that podcast, pretty cool way to do it. So
All right. Well, I want to thank you again for joining. Had a great conversation, and I know this probably won't be the last.
yeah, anytime you want to hang out and chat some more, just you know how to get in touch with me. So
Before I go, I want to once again thank Revealing Too Much for joining me for this interview. Make sure to follow them on their socials, the links are provided below, and keep an eye out for the next episode of Level 1 to Now, where I'll be having a conversation with Misfit Playland. Please like and subscribe to make sure you don't miss out on that interview. Thank you for watching. Keep that glass half full, and have a great next game.